Hey guys, James with Torches and Tactical, and as you can see here, I have 4 of the same light. I really like the Convoy T4, and we will go into a full review on it, but not today. Today's a little bit different. One thing you guys probably will notice is 2 of these titanium models, are the exact same. Now, I did attempt to get 2 of these, one in the raw titanium and one in the Stonewash. However, the second one that came in was also raw. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to get these other ones off camera, and we're going to focus on this raw titanium right here. What we're going to do today is I'm going to walk you guys through disassembling and getting that Stonewash finish. So it's pretty simple. All you got to do is remove the tail cap, remove the head, and these are the basic parts. So in order to remove everything from the tail cap, I found this pair of pliers that I like to use for something like this. Now, if you get them in here, there are 2 little holes, and then you go in a counterclockwise motion. Oh, let's make sure that we are all the way in there. Go in a counterclockwise motion. This will remove the retaining ring for the tail cap or the switch, and then everything else just kind of falls out. Let me get this out of here. Okay, with a little bit of persuasion, I was able to remove the actual spongy switch portion of it. And there we go. That is the tail cap disassembled, ready to go. Now, I do have another set of picks that I got with my soldering iron, and we'll go ahead and get these O-rings off as well. Put those in our pile. There's one on the head and one on the tail. You give them a little bit of a squeeze and roll them together. It'll open up some access for you. There we go. Now this portion's ready to go. And for the head, usually I can palm these and start turning them. That will take the bezel off. And then we have an O-ring with the glass lens as well as the orange peel reflector. We'll set all that aside. Then we'll get those pliers back, and we can remove the retaining ring for the driver. Here we go, that's coming out. Again, move counterclockwise. The ring moves counterclockwise, I guess I should say. The actual head, if you're holding the ring steady, the head will move clockwise. And then the only difficult part is removing these solder balls and then taking the MCPCB off of the actual head itself. So I'm going to get those off camera and I'll be right back. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and take these pieces that we are going to be stonewashing and take them with us. So when we're all done removing this, we can get everything in all at once. All right, guys, I did this off camera because sometimes my technique is not the greatest. But here we have the MCPCB with the 4500K Nichia 519 emitter. So we'll set that aside, and you can see the wires poking out here. So now all we got to do is get this driver out. It's already loose, but sometimes these don't want to shake free. Let's go ahead and give it a go first and see if we can get it. Okay, carefully. It is coming out already, but we'll go ahead and bring this down carefully. Try to get these to break free. And while I'm putting a little bit of downward pressure, I'll just straighten the wires out. And that should, oh, hold on, we're caught on the positive terminal. There we go, that should be all she wrote. So that is the driver of the Convoy T4 out, ready to go. And now we have a bare head, no O-rings, no driver, no PCB, no emitters, nothing like that. So we have the head, let me get this out of the way. We have the head, we have the bezel, the body, and the tail switch. So let's go ahead and take this outside, and I'll show you guys what I'm going to put it in. All right, so we're outside in the shop and we're gonna be using an Eastwood 18-pound rotary tumbler or vibratory tumbler. And inside that, we are using this green plastic media. We're gonna see how well this works. If not, we will move up towards a more aggressive media for the tumbler. But we'll go ahead and just drop the battery tube, the head, the tail switch, and the bezel. Then we'll put, there is a little bit of water in here as well. So we'll go ahead and put this back on. And then we just seal it up. Good and tight, because again, there is liquid in here. You don't want that stuff to splash out. But with that on there good and tight, all you got to do is flip that switch and let it run. And before I start this, I will check back every so often, give you guys an update as to how this is working and if we need to switch media. So here we go. All right, guys, let's go ahead and shut this off. Let's check this out, shall we? Any day now. Okay, let's take this cover off. Ooh, a little bit warm, quite a bit of humidity. It's definitely still a gloss on it, but man, that already looks so much better. Now, a lot of this is that liquid in here, but I think this is already looking so much better. It's only been running for about an hour and a half, just a little bit less actually. And you can see that it still has some sheen to it. So we're gonna let it continue running and I'll come back and check on it here in a little bit. So it's been about 2 more hours and I did make a small change, and that is I left that green media in for another hour and a half, and I didn't see any drastic change, so I modified it even more. Now, I could give a disclaimer here and say that don't do what I'm doing because it'll probably end up being terrible, but I decided to throw it in with some gravel. I really wanted to get aggressive with it, so let's take one of these pieces out. Oh, that is covered in so much slurry, it's not even funny. But I'll take it over to the pond real fast just so we can clean it off and compare it to the compare it to the raw finish. So I'll be right back. Okay, I decided not to walk all the way over to the pond, but let's come down here. We're just gonna clean this off. And oh, that looks pretty darn good. Now there are some obvious differences between like a factory stonewash. This seems to have more hot spots, but it kind of leaves that sheen on the inside, and I like it quite a bit. So let's take these parts inside and compare them to the stonewash. All right, I'm gonna let you guys go again, but we'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back with the polished or raw titanium. We also have the orange and the MAO, the micro arc oxidation of the Convoy T4. And I mean, these all look fantastic, but since I had 2 of these, I definitely wanted to make it a little more me. I already have a polished, so I decided that I wanted to try and bring out some of that, or rather take away some of the luster and bring out some more character in it. Now, before I bring it out here, because frankly, I think it turned out great, I am going to show you a factory stonewash Convoy T3. Now, this is factory stonewash, and you can tell that they use either some actual round stone or a much less abrasive a much less aggressive abrasive compared to what I ended up doing. Now, if you go back to those clips, you'll see that I did end up swapping out that green abrasive, and I swapped it for literal gravel. There was a ton of slurry at the end, but guys, I think it turned out great. I'll tell you ahead of time, it's kind of a mix of both of these. Now the small, I guess, crevices or the small channels do still have a little bit of this luster, but the majority of it does have that stonewash finish, and that is with a slight difference, but I think it turned out great. So without further ado, here it is. This is the battery tube, and it came out. Now it is a little bit dirty still. I do still have to dunk it in an isopropyl alcohol just to make sure that I get rid of the last of that slurry and everything. But I'll set it right in between here so you can see. Now it does have characteristics of both the actual factory stonewash as well as the polished or raw titanium. I think it looks great, but let's go ahead and just kind of piece everything together real quick so you can see all of it in its proverbial glory. Get that tail cap on there. Now I'll set it next to it so you can see that there is an obvious difference, but it's not earth shattering. It's not, de-anodizing and then swapping over to something else. So I think this turned out really, really well. And now the next step is to put the switch back in, install that PCB and the driver, and get the MCPCB resoldered so we actually have a functioning light again. Oh, and actually, I just realized that one thing I did leave out. Now this bezel is stainless, but it polished up really well just the same. It matches really, really nicely. It does seem to carry a little bit more luster than the rest of it, but that's all right with me. So let's go ahead and get this back together. And in doing so, I'm really happy about this. I had a couple of these on hand. This is a replacement switch, but this has orange LEDs, and I also have one in blue. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this back together and show you guys these really, really fast. So I'm gonna fast forward just so you can see what both of these look like. Okay, let's go ahead and start with the orange. All right, so you can see that orange light up. I'm gonna put it on this T4 real quick. And we'll drop one 14500 and two 14500s in. Okay, so here's this one. Now I'm gonna go ahead and kill off the lights one at a time. That way you guys can see this a little bit better. So here is the orange. Now I'm going to take this back apart and swap it for the blue so you guys can tell me which one you guys think looks better. All right, let's put this back on here so you can see everything. And this is the blue tail cap. So let's get these lights back on. There's one, there's two, and there's three. He spoke and said, "Let there be light." So let's get this switch back on, putting these ones back inside this polished titanium, just so we can keep everything organized. All right, let's go ahead and clear out the MAO and the orange, as well as the polished and even the Stonewash T3. Another thing we have to do before this is back together for good is put these O-rings back on. That way we maintain some semblance of moisture resistance or water resistance. And then we can throw this tail cap back together. Now, I know the driver's not in yet, but I just want to see how everything looks. Make sure it fits together well with those O-rings. Oh, guys, I'm so stoked about this. Okay, let's take this back apart, just the head though. Set this aside. And we'll snake this driver back up through here. Best way to do it, in my opinion, is straighten these wires out. And then one at a time, make sure that we are good. Boom. There we go. Those wires are back through. Now I'm going to go off camera one more time real quick and get this not only soldered, but I'm also going to throw some thermal paste down here just to make sure that we do get some really good heat transfer. It is only a 519A, so it's not putting out all the output in the world, but we still don't want to overheat that or have bad thermal transfer. So I'm going to throw this back in and get it soldered. All right, guys, I got it resoldered on here, and now I'm going to go ahead and with a little bit of MX4 thermal compound. This is what I've been using on all my mods and everything, and it's worked really well. I'm just going to spread a little bit on this spatula. Oh, that's too much. Whoops. Just a little bit. Do as I say, not as I do. Haha. I feel like I'm talking to my kids right now. But I'm going to flip this in and spread this on the back of this MCPCB. And I have a little bit extra there, but that's okay. Now, one thing that I didn't do is I didn't put the retaining ring on the actual driver, and that will allow me to just push this down and leave that extra slack inside here. I'm a fan of taking this approach. That way I can leave everything coiled and make up that slack inside the driver compartment. So with that in place, now I'll go ahead and put that driver retaining ring in. And this is the same thing. We're going to go ahead, make sure that we're not sitting cattywampus or cockeyed in there. But once we have those teeth in place, now I probably should grind this down a little better. That way I know I'm getting a good contact and it's not going to slip out. But there we go. We have an LED in place. We have, let me turn this around just a little bit. We have an LED in place and we have a driver secure. So as long as this is able to push down and that retaining ring will sit on there just fine. Let's go ahead and slip this in. Well, having a little bit of difficulties lining up, but that negative cable was still sticking up. So if I can get that seated, we should be golden like the corral. There we go. There, the centering ring is lying nice and flat now. The bezel O-ring is in place. And I went ahead and cleaned the glass with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. So now we should be good to thread that bezel down for, theoretically, the last time. So since I'm impatient, I'm actually going to put the head on this polished just so we can verify everything works, since the batteries are already in there and everything. Hey, look at that. We still got light. That looks kind of out of place now. But I think we are ready. We'll go ahead and put the battery tube on now. It's now O-ring sealed on the bezel, on the head, where the head meets the battery tube, as well as the tail cap. So, throw those batteries in. We can throw that tail cap on. And we do have light. Now, unfortunately, I did have to swap that blue tail cap back off just because it is a little bit wider and it appeared to be shorting out. So the light stayed on all the time. But guys, this is a custom mild stonewash finish on a Convoy T4. And again, it started in its very, very polished state. And I know it's probably not going to be for everybody, but I think it looks fantastic. So I apologize about not being able to put those switches in, but let me know what you think of the factory polish versus the mild stonewash versus the factory stonewash finish. Now, yes, I know the factory stonewash looks great, but this is kind of my own little take on the stonewashing of the polish finish. So thank you guys for being with me. Comment down below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and click that bell notification because you'll find out when we do more videos like this. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.